Have you ever felt your partner's behavior around sex is just manipulative? Leaving you feeling confused, leaving you feel used, leaving you feel like they're just using and abusing you to get what they want. Maybe you wonder how narcissists utilize sex as a tool for distraction, sedation, and even addiction. We're going to dive into a little bit of that today, talking about the complex dynamics of how narcissists exploit sexual intimacy in relationships, how it's detrimental on you, and how it ultimately hurts and destroys a lot of the relationship because of what they're doing to manipulate you. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness about narcissistic abuse. I'm the founder of Raw Motivations, the creator of the NARC app, and your guide in the 45-day Clarity Challenge you can access at claritychallenge.net. The whole goal of what we do is to help people break free of the trauma bond, get rid of the rumination, eradicate the triggers, and give you the tools inside the challenge to help you move forward, getting rid of those limiting beliefs and the toxicity that has been impressed upon you. Well, when we talk through this aspect of narcissists and sex, it normally pops up where we're talking about cheating, we're talking about affairs, 100%. Like, well, that's huge in the whole realm of it. Okay, but today we're going to be talking through just a nuanced piece of using and manipulating and utilizing sex as distractions, sedations, and addictions. So the first one I want to jump into is distraction from the real issue. Narcissists oftentimes use sex as a means to divert your attention from the problems that are in the relationship. So like you're having an issue, you're having a problem, they might use and abuse sex in a way to either manipulate or control your perspective of the situation, making you get to the place where you're having to beg for it, or getting to the place where you feel shunned for even wanting sex. You're going to see this a lot of times with covert narcissists that will push you away, and it seems like they will never even want sex at all, because for them, it's this aspect of I'm still controlling you. I'm still manipulating you. You're still coming after me, wanting something that I have. There's multiple different pieces of this, so it's hard to be able to talk to just one, because for every one, there's like 5 others that do it differently, okay? I'm just trying to cover as best I can. Narcissists will use sex as a means to divert attention from the problem at hand. Or they'll use it to divert attention from their harmful behaviors. Like people will see this all the time, and I'll hear people say this, of like, our sex connection was just amazing. Then you have narcissists on the other side, and they're like, yeah, no, our sex was awful. Okay, because sometimes it's used in a manipulative way. Let me do everything you like in the bedroom so that I can do everything I want otherwise and still get away with it. Because you're still going to come back because you're connected, you're bonded, you're stuck with me intimately. So sometimes narcissists will focus on the physical aspect, preventing you from addressing the emotional issues, from the things that are actually divisive and hurting you even more than a lack of sex. But it's like, let me just do this over and over and over again, because if I do this, if I connect with you on a sexual way, then it minimizes the need for emotional connection. Maybe we can just keep going forward and it's not going to be that big a deal. This manipulation leaves you isolated, invalidated, and often alone, because your concerns are pushed to the side. You're moved to the side because you no longer matter. Your emotional needs don't matter. Instead, they're just connecting on a sexual level. Think of it this way. You might have got to the place where you're trying to discuss how he's hurt you, like the things that he's done that has put you down, the comments that he said, and the neglectful behavior that he's shown you, but he still responds, not talking about those, but responds by initiating sex. So it's like, let me get connected to you in a different way. It is distracting you from the conversation. It's distracting you, leaving core issues unresolved. So like sex a lot of times is used as a distraction piece. Let me distract you from the actual problem. Let me distract you from what's actually going on so that you don't pay attention to it. Now, where does it come into the next level of sedation? Sedation with a narcissist, and through this emotional manipulation, sex serves as this tool of having an emotional sedation. Keeps you entangled in a toxic relationship and not having to look at the truth of the situation. Narcissists will use this to sedate their own needs, to sedate as an addiction that we'll talk about in a minute, but to sedate from the actual truth of the situation. This happens all the time where the narcissist is exploiting you, exploiting your emotional vulnerabilities, but using sex as a way to create this temporary sense of closeness and connection. You're going to see this early on in the relationship of trying to build and form a relationship very quickly. You're going to see it in multiple different facets where the narcissist will try to use sex and to leverage it as a way to be able to connect with you. Sometimes they do this and you feel like it's the best thing ever because they're trying to serve you in a way that will only get what they want. Like if I can get connected to you, if I can get this bond with you, it'll be genuine. It'll feel good. When in reality, it's just trying to build a bond, but it's not actually having a depth. A lot of times a narcissist will do this with sex to try to be able to sedate their own emotions. Like, I don't know how I feel. I don't want to process how I feel. Let me go ahead and do something. Let me go ahead and be with someone. Let me go ahead and use sex as a sedation tactic so I don't have to feel. You see this not just with sex, but you see this with other addictions that we're going to talk about here in a second. You might have this aspect with a narcissist is offering intimacy as a way after an argument to get you to be soothed from your emotional pain. You're like, oh, this feels better because we're connected now. No, it's actually rewiring your mindset and making you think that the awful thing is actually not that bad. It's slowly training you and readjusting the chemicals in your body, making you think that this abusive thing gets this reward, so it's okay for this abusive thing to happen. Like, it's okay that I just got hurt this bad because then this happened afterwards. And it starts to mess with your mind and it starts to have you put up with more and more and more abuse because that emotional pain is getting fixed in a physical way. And it starts to sedate not just the narcissist, but it can end up sedating you from the pain that's actually happening in the relationship. And it gives you this aspect of short-lived comfort. It doesn't address the underlying issues. Then you see the piece of addictions, where the narcissist starts this to create an addictive dynamic around sex to keep you attached. We're not even talking yet about the narcissist being addicted to sex, but just how they're creating the environment for you to be addicted to them, to continue to try to come back to them, to continue to try to interact with them, to get to the place where they're giving you sex and then they're withholding it. They're providing it and then they're pulling it back. And it triggers this cycle of anticipation and reward. Pavlov's theory, right? With the cat, ring the bell, get a treat. The cat's like salivating because it needs the treat because it rang the bell. It thinks that's what it's supposed to get. It's a narcissist training you to respond that way, to be a servant that way, to be a slave to how they're going to respond when they want to respond to make sure they get what they want from you. This leads to getting to a place where you're dependent on their approval, where you're dependent on their validation. You're dependent on, oh, I have to do this for this person. And this dependency strengthens the narcissist's control over you, where you get used to looking for this validation, looking for this acceptance, looking for this peace that maybe this person will actually love me this time. Maybe they'll actually connect with me this time because they're bringing in the emotional aspect and the physical aspect to further bond you together. This is why it's so hard for people to be intimate and have sex and not get emotionally tangled. Like not to start having feelings for each other, not to have different levels of emotion where they have to either shut that off or where they get all confused in the relationship. But a narcissist will use sex as a way to distract you from the problem, as a way to sedate themselves from their emotions, as a way for you to sedate from dealing with the emotions and to develop an addiction that you start to come back to them no matter what. And then we talk about the narcissist having a sex addiction. This is a popular one. Because you see a lot of narcissists that will hide under the guise of like, well, I just have a sex addiction, so therefore you just have to take me as it is. And you're like, okay, I get that. And the narcissist is like, yep, so come serve me. Because they want what they want when they want it, anytime they want it. This whole idea of like, you'll find narcissists that will identify more as a sex addict and be proud of that because it gives them leverage over you. Well, this is who I am. This is who I am, so I guess you're just going to have to live with me. This is what I want. This is what I need. If you don't give this to me, then I'll go out and I'll do it with someone else. Leveraging, guilt tripping, manipulating you to get what they want in the moment. Narcissists will use this to be able to control you. Are you at the place where you're tired of being controlled? You're tired of being controlled by him, by his actions, by his words, by the things that are happening on a day-to-day basis, the guilt trip, the lies, the belittling. Are you tired of it? If you're tired of it, I want you to go to claritychallenge.net today. There's a list of multiple people there that have sent in videos and that are talking on this page, telling you how they were tired of it and what they did to change it, how they broke free, how they changed their mindset, how they were able to be liberated from the toxicity that had them in bondage for such a long period of time, where they were trapped mentally, emotionally, sexually, financially, physically, to be able to be free. And that's where they are now. Free and moving forward in their growth, in their healing, in their development, into being the person that they're called to be. The question is, will you? Will you actually take the step to be free from the toxicity? To be free from the stories that you're telling yourself that it was great, but sometimes bad. That the sex was amazing, but yeah, he was also abusive. But maybe this, but maybe that. But maybe if I get validated from that person, but if you don't. You're looking for approval, and you don't know who you are. If you're ready to break free from that and move forward in your healing, I want you to go to claritychallenge.net. Watch the videos that are on the page. Don't just take my word for it. Watch the videos and then make a decision for you of, is this going to help you change, grow, and develop or not? Choice is yours. claritychallenge.net.